MAGA manifesto. The liberal mob has come to take out the worst threat to America that they've ever seen. Yes, they want to arrest the bad orange man. I would like to start by thanking Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg for ensuring that Donald Trump will be the 47th President of the United States. Americans believe in fairness, and they will see that the political persecution of Donald Trump is not fair. The MAGA manifesto that I wish to speak of is something that takes to task the Republican leaders of Congress. I should start by saying that conservatives, Reagan Democrats, and libertarians don't like manifestos. We have the Constitution, the Federalist Papers, the Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence. So this is a thought experiment of what I would like to have seen from our Republican leaders in Congress these past few years. You know, the leaders who tell us that Joe Biden is their best friend, and those who seek comedy with Democrats as their top goal while working in the United States Senate and the House leadership. Those people. Anyway, here's what I wanted to see from our country's leaders: the opposition to Democrat big government plans. When Democrats said Donald Trump was a Russian colluder, Russian agent, Russian plant, and Putin's best friend, I wanted every Republican leader in Washington, D.C. to denounce these labels and to affirm that they stood strong with the 45th President of the United States and the leader of the Republican Party, Donald Trump. President Obama would have had the full support of his party at a similar charge. Obama could count on every leftist to defend him, but Trump did not enjoy similar support from Mitch McConnell and the rest. They didn't defend President Trump or give him the presumption of innocence. Instead, Republican leaders would wring their hands, think of a Mike Pence facial expression, and they would say, "Well, I hope those charges aren't true. I'll wait and see if Trump is eventually exonerated." And they did that for 4 years of Trump's presidency. That attitude gave the Democrats all the fuel they needed to block the Trump Republican agenda and to cripple his administration. It's amazing that Trump got as much done as he did. And he did it by himself, while every GOP leader sat there and hoped that the charges of Russian collusion were true, so that they could somehow win back the GOP voters to their side and away from Trump. It was transparent politics, and it was done by the people who depend on Republican voters and our donations to exist. When the Biden administration authorized the raid on Donald Trump's home, the entire GOP Senate and House should have showed up at the entrance to the Department of Justice and shut it down. We should have seen every GOP leader chain themselves to the main entrance and refuse to leave until the DOJ returned to impartial, nonpartisan justice. Not witch hunts of a Republican president. Instead, the GOP leadership wrung their hands and said, "Well, I hope these charges by the DOJ and FBI are not true. We will wait until Trump is cleared of these charges." Nope, that's not how you defend your party's president and leader. When a Republican governor, like the ones in Texas and Florida, stand up for freedom and American values, the rest of the GOP should not be sitting on their hands waiting to see what happens. They should support these leaders 100% and ensure we have a united Republican front in every state for conservatism. It is a crime that businesses were closed and doctors and nurses were fired because of Joe Biden and his team of goose-stepping lawyers. Watching the Republican weak response to the Biden dictatorship is the greatest tragedy of 2023, and it's why the GOP leaders did not enjoy a red wave in the 2022 midterm elections. The voters see your weakness in the face of leftist progressive power grabs. And guess what? Democrats only grab power that is not theirs when the opposition does nothing to oppose them. When you see Democrats pass ballot harvesting and illegal drop box laws in your states, you should be occupying state houses and fighting them as hard as Democrats fight to make their values the law of the land. If you do not fight Democrats, they will win and destroy our country. Fight back, as Texas and Florida have. It's that simple. They should be the lesson for all 50 states, not the exceptions. Where are the Republicans demanding accountability on Joe Biden's medical infirmity? Where are the Republicans holding hearings on the manner in which Joe Biden and his foreign policy team wrecked Syria, Afghanistan, Yemen, and stumbled into a war with Russia over the Ukraine? I could care less about Hunter Biden's laptop and transactions if Joe Biden induces Russia to start dropping nuclear warheads. Where are the Republicans sealing our border? Drugs and crime are pouring across an open Biden border. Every Republican senator should be calling Joe Biden Fentanyl Joe. This should be his name 2 years into office. Fentanyl Joe. It should be on everyone's lips. Instead, nothing. No pushback, no fight. The Republican leadership wants to coexist and get along with their masters in the Democratic Party. Speaking of Fentanyl Joe, some of the biggest victims of cheap drugs are young black men. There is a tremendous opportunity here for conservatives to break black Americans away from the Democratic Party.
But I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Look at what white Democrats, full of compassion, have done to the black family, to black mothers. Black children are taught to hate white people and want to burn their own neighborhoods and bring down this country. All with 100% Democrat rule in big cities. Republican leaders should be on television every night denouncing Joe Biden and his plan to kill blacks with recreational drugs, because it is exactly what Biden is doing. Stand up and speak the truth. Democrats did this to the black community. Hold them accountable. The Pentagon is the world's largest landowner. Why is our country so poor, running up deficits? If we can't be the world's beacon of freedom without bankrupting our children, someone needs to rethink this plan. Joe Biden's plan of tax the rich will only force them into tax shelters. As Ronald Reagan observed, Washington does not have a deficit problem. Our government has a spending problem. It's time to save some money. For that matter, it's our money, not Washington's. Speaking of saving money, let's cancel large foster families and homeless care on the streets. Our country needs a return to orphanages and mental health asylums in every state. We don't need 12 kids stuck in a foster home. These kids need an orphanage. Partner with Catholic nuns if you have to. We don't need homeless people pooping on every street corner, shooting up drugs, and screaming like maniacs in front of storefronts where children are walking by. Addicts will be taken to mental health asylums and locked up until they are clean. The truly insane will be locked up for their own good if treatment does not work, but they will not be tottering around in front of every business and public school. Public schools should be disbanded and reformed with a focus on the basics and how to do home budgeting and how to earn job skills and learn how to be craftsmen and craftswomen. All this social nonsense should be defunded and the Department of Education be repurposed into a warehouse shipping out standardized textbooks and tests. A panel of 3 people can disperse federal taxpayer funding to all 50 states. Anything else in the Department of Education should be closed and sold off at auction. Foreign aid should be canceled if countries will not align with our values. Stop throwing away our tax dollars, both parties. Watching the World Health Organization fund infectious disease research in China is nuts. Let the Chinese study how to kill us. Why are we paying for everything in the world? Conservatism and libertarianism are rooted in the concept that an honest day's work and providing for your family is the American way. We want the government out of our wallets and away from our children. Government housing is evil and does not pay for itself. No one who receives a house for free performs any upkeep on it. When politicians come up with boondoggles, like rows of electric outlets for electric cars in every city and government parking lot, those progressive officials should be required to fund it from their own pockets. If they refuse, then the boondoggle won't see the light of day. Repeat nationwide across all 50 states until the national debt pays itself. There is so much government money being thrown away. President Trump noted that only a tiny fraction of such waste crossed his desk, and he was appalled by what he saw. President Biden doesn't care. He just signs what his progressive lawyers bring him. Equal justice under law is emblazoned across the front of the U.S. Supreme Court building. This premise is not being practiced in 2023. When you turn on late-night TV on any network, you see a comedy host denouncing taxpayers as racists and praising the Democratic Party. It means we have massive corporations who are illegally joined with the Democratic Party. These companies should be cracked apart and people put in prison for illegally working for one party while shutting the other out of power. It would be equally wrong if they were doing this with the other party, by the way. The federal government exists to serve the people. It says so in the Constitution. If those in the federal government believe the people exist to serve them, then they should be fired and their bureaucracies disbanded. These are fairly common sense observations. It's not Washington's money. They are misusing our money and calling us racist while reaching into our pockets. That's my MAGA manifesto, and it means Make America Great Again. I have not seen any Republican leader in 2023 say anything like the above. Thank you.